You can do the same with minimum wage increases. If I'm a conservative, I don't have to tell you that minimum wage...
Why are you saying if I'm a conservative? You are a conservative. Don't be a pussy. Just tell us what you are. We don't even need you to tell us what you are. Your entire body of work shows us what you are. But you continue to insist through your own cowardice to be like, oh, but if I was a conservative, I'm saying both sides are bad. I'm in the center. I've just come to these conclusions logically by seeing both sides of the argument. Shut the fuck up. You're a conservative. It's not if you're a conservative, you are a conservative. How about you try to use this analogy from a left-wing perspective? It's almost like you can't, because that's not the ideology that you have. That's not the ideology that you want to push. So I was watching a certain bearded gentleman live stream earlier today before my live stream right now, twitch.tv/conurcc, stream every other day. And he was watching this video, why men don't take dating advice from women. And obviously this could go in a variety of directions. However, if we look at this channel, Think Before You Sleep, and their broader body of work, it seems to be that this is an anti-feminist, anti-SJW, right-wing channel. It's very interesting. So we've got titles like Why They Are Trying to Destroy America. We've got When Woke Indoctrinated Kids Become Adults. How Feminist Ideas Make Everyone Look Weak. A lot of interesting stuff here. And I thought it would be fun to go over this because this seems like, even though they have 500,000 subscribers and they seem to be stuck in 2016, 2014 Gamergate era, they're still doing numbers. Like, look at this, 500,000 views in a month. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So I figure, you know, we might as well see what the hype's about. What's so interesting about this account? Now, I've seen a little bit of this video from having watched it on somebody else's platform, but I think we'll watch this one. When Woke Indoctrinated Kids Become Adults. This is a trending topic currently. First, it was because of CRT and the fact that the left supports kids in school being taught that slavery was a thing that happened and that it was bad. And the right seems to be against that idea. One, that slavery was bad, and two, that kids should be taught that slavery is bad. They don't like that. There's a partisan divide there for some reason. I thought that slavery being bad was a bipartisan issue. Now, obviously, we're centering around the so-called indoctrination thing when it comes to trans people. The idea that kids will be taught basic biology and basic sociology in the clinical setting of a classroom, obviously because right-wingers don't understand basic biology, not to mention advanced biology, which completely contradicts and counters the claims that they will always provide about their misunderstandings of biological sex and gender and all this kind of thing. But also, it's an interesting topic because I guess depending on how you define indoctrination, it's an interesting conversation. So what I expect to happen is essentially that this person's definition, from what we've seen already, indoctrination is essentially going to be whenever kids are taught things that I don't like. I think that's going to be the definition that this person is running with. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. I think that's what it's going to be. Because if that wasn't the actual definition you're going to run with, then what about right-wing indoctrination? Are we going to talk about that? Obviously, we're talking about woke indoctrination, so being woke is on the left. That's what that means. Woke is literally anything I disagree with if it's coming from the left. I don't know if that's what we're going to get from this video, but I suppose we'll find out. Let's see what Think Before You Sleep, 500,000 sub YouTube channel, has to say about this Jubilee video, which is, if I recall correctly, liberal teens versus conservative parents.
Cancel culture is a good thing.
We have the freedom to say what you want, but everyone else has the freedom to respond and cancel you if you say something that is racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc. Cancel culture is definitely...
I can't believe that these kids would think this kind of thing. No way. I have the freedom to disagree with right-wing opinions on the internet? No shot. This kid was actually interviewed by Bosch too, which was interesting. It was an interesting interview as well. He seemed to be the most based of all of them here. Not to say the rest weren't, but...
Good in the means of like deplatforming people who are spreading very hateful messages.
Yeah, well, it's not really freedom to say what you want if you constantly have to fear being censored if big tech doesn't like your political take.
Big tech doesn't like your political take. More like people in general don't like your political take. What do you mean? Republicans and conservatism is the minority position in this country, the so-called silent majority. It's actually a very vocal minority. The only reason that they have any power in the United States, which is what we're going to focus this on, is because of participation trophies like the Electoral College that allow for them to win even though they are less popular. Very simple. But this idea that big tech doesn't like your political take is also kind of weird. The idea that big tech in general has an agenda is very strange to me. It seems like for most corporations, the entire thing that they care about is making money. And they've realized that the Overton window, the political zeitgeist, has shifted to the point where more and more people are seeing black people and women as well, the LGBTQIA plus community, more and more are being seen as equals. And as such, pandering to them through doing like woke Oreo ads or whatever else has been a way that they can make more money by appealing to that demographic and people's progressive sensibilities. But anyway, the idea that big tech doesn't like your political takes and they're going to censor you based on your ideology is ludicrous. The only reason that right-wingers say this is essentially because they're mad that they or their friends keep getting banned on social media platforms for saying slurs or being racist or homophobic or whatever else. That's literally it.
Even if that political take is something more than half of the country agrees with. Also, you said racist
Which is
things
what? Are you going to cite one of these things that more than half the country agrees with?
aren't allowed. So then do you agree that people like Robin DiAngelo and other proponents of critical race theory should be canceled?
This is a complete and total misunderstanding of what critical race theory is. First and foremost, fuck Robin DiAngelo. This is some liberal idpol shit, unironically. It doesn't seem to be exceptionally good in terms of trying to make it so people are not racist. It just seems to be a way for her to wiggle her way into corporate boardrooms and sell her product to try to like grift more money out of corporations so that they can seem woke because they're doing a Robin DiAngelo race seminar or whatever. Don't care about that. Also, this guy just doesn't understand what critical race theory is, which is literally a collegiate level academic idea that is not taught to kids in school. And if it is, it's incredibly watered down things like slavery was real and also it was bad. And also we should probably make it so that the people who suffered under slavery still don't suffer to this day as they do. You know, think crazy ideas like that I would imagine more than half the population agrees with.
Because I think those ideas are incredibly racist.
Yeah, it's because you're fucking stupid.
Quite frankly, insulting to the people they claim to be helping. But
no, they're only insulting to you because you, as an assumed white person, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, you're offended because you're upset about being told truthful and correct information. Not about Robin DiAngelo, like I said, I don't give a fuck about her, but about literally like critical race theory as a concept, who it's being taught to, which is not infant children in kindergarten. You're upset because you seem to disagree with this idea that black people have faced oppression in this country in the past and still do, and it's incumbent on literally everybody in society to make it so that that doesn't happen again and help to fix the issues still related to that. You think it's racist because it upsets your delicate white sensibilities.
I guess that stuff doesn't count because it's on your side of the aisle, right?
And here we come to what my guess to what this dumbass's definition of indoctrination was going to be, which is literally anything that's not on my political side of the fence is bad. And if you're taught that ever, you're being indoctrinated.
Might make the counter argument that Twitter is biased and will only cancel right-wing politicians. That's not true at all.
True.
Twitter and other forms of social media have canceled left-wing activists. There is an equal balance on both sides.
So a big thing you could point to for this, there are a lot of pro-trans accounts, really small ones too, that have been wrongfully TOS'd for doing advocacy for trans people because they get brigaded by reports and all this kind of shit. Also, people on the left who have been canceled as well on Twitter, or just in general rather, because I'm sure that's where we're going to extrapolate this out to. Edward Snowden for revealing the NSA spying on everybody. That's a left-wing issue. Libertarian left-wing people don't like the idea of a government surveillance state like the NSA facilitates. This man was literally not allowed to come to the United States or else he might face judicial repercussions for doing so and is currently hiding in Russia or whatever. It is absolutely true that left-wing activists and left-wing accounts do still get TOS'd on the platform, but I guess it depends on what your definition of canceled is.
Name one person on the left who's been canceled or deplatformed from big tech. I would genuinely be impressed if they could name a single person on the left who's been deplatformed on Twitter. I can name a bunch on the right who are banned there. Alex Jones, Carl...
And why are they deplatformed?
Benjamin, Milo Yiannopoulos, Stefan Molyneux, and James O'Keefe. And that's just specifically talking about the people who are involved in politics.
So my question is, are we going to bring up why these people got banned from Twitter? What would be the reason for that, I wonder? Because if we wanted to substantiate this claim a little further, you could absolutely own me in the marketplace of ideas by telling me why these people are banned and why you think that's a bad thing. If we go back to some of these people, Alex Jones literally spread spreads baseless conspiracy theories, has lost lawsuits for defaming, for claiming fallaciously that Sandy Hook was a hoax or whatever. I think that not allowing that person on your platform is literally in the public's interest. That's not the only conspiracy theory he peddles either. So why is it that he was banned, in your opinion, I guess? And why do you think that that's a bad thing? Because in my opinion, saying that the victims of a school shooting, children who were killed in their school where they're supposed to be safe, saying that that was all fake and they were crisis actors, probably not a thing that you would want. I think banning people who are literally spreading conspiracy theories is a fine thing to do. Then we got Carl Benjamin, who is literally a white nationalist. You'd imagine that he's breaking TOS in a variety of different ways. Milo Yiannopoulos, who's literally done pedophile apologia and is consistently racist and anti-LGBT. Like, these are not good examples to bring up. I don't know what to tell you. If your problematic faves can't stop getting TOS'd by a private corporation who they made an account for and agreed to the TOS of, if they can't stop breaking that, I don't know what to tell you.
What is your opinion on Trump being cancelled on Twitter?
When you go onto Twitter, whatever, you check I accept the, guidelines, the community guidelines, I agree to follow them, and so Twitter has the right to take him off the app.
This is so sad to see because when I was a kid, not only would liberals be disgusted that someone was censored for having a different opinion, but you would never see liberals praising a monopolistic corporation like Twitter.
Yeah, okay, so let's nationalize Twitter. Let's make Twitter publicly owned. Let's go. I guarantee you, by the way, so this is some news of the day that I do not give a shit about, but apparently Elon, Chungus, Keanu, Reddit Gold bought Twitter. I highly, highly doubt that this guy has a problem with that. I'm pretty sure he's probably excited about it. So like when I think about, praising a monopolistic corporation, well, how about a billionaire oligarch is buying what many conservatives are calling the new public square and is gaining ownership of it, and depending on how it works out, it might have an outsized amount of influence to shape how the platform works, should own the public square. The idea that a single human being can own that service, that public square, is absurd on principle. Never mind if it's Elon Musk or whoever else, I don't care who it is.
You agree to the rules on Twitter because there are no other options.
What do you mean there's no other options? You could use Facebook, you could use Instagram, you could even go on Tumblr if you want. But unfortunately, those places also have TOS that makes it harder for conservatives to exist on the platform because conservative ideology seems to make it so that everybody breaks TOS.
Parler tried to give us an alternative with rules that were more fair.
Parler was literally banning left-wingers. Oh God. This person doesn't believe anything. This person, they don't have any beliefs. They just say things. Parler literally bans left-wing people for almost no reason. This is a supposed free speech platform, and it's banning left-wing accounts for trolling right-wingers on the platform. What do you mean?
Amazon, Google, and Apple shut Parler down the minute it became competitive with Twitter.
Or rather, alternatively, another reading, the minute it was used to facilitate an insurrection on the Capitol on January 6th. They were fine with it until it got to a boiling point. They allowed it to happen on their platforms until then. But as soon as January 6th happened, they realized that January 6th was terrible optics, not only for the right, but also for corporations allowing people to organize events like that on their platform. And then they got Parler taken down off of their services because they understood that it would be a hit to their bottom line. Corporations only care about money. They don't care about anything else.
Don't forget that Amazon illegally violated its contract with Parler to do that. With that said, this is Middle Ground, a segment from a left-leaning channel called Jubilee that gets people with differing opinions to debate and try to find common ground on a variety of issues. I have to say that there are a number of things that Jubilee does that I don't like. However, I really like what they've done here with Middle Ground in terms of using it as a medium to create good faith dialogue between people with differing opinions.
Good faith dialogue between people with differing opinions. I've watched a lot of these ones where they seem to pit conservative ideas against left-wing ideas, and it is almost always the case that the people on the right, and sometimes the people on the left, are not approaching the conversation in good faith. I don't think you know what that means.
You brought up canceling him off Twitter. I'm sorry, I disagree. When the Taliban can use our social media, but an ex-president can't, there is something wrong with that.
I mean, maybe the ex-president fomented the conditions that led to an attempted insurrection on the Capitol.
Did the Taliban violate community guidelines?
It doesn't matter.
I think it
doesn't
matters.
Matter.
Twitter.
So, wait, how do you mean it doesn't matter? So I haven't seen this Jubilee, but I have seen other people react to it, but I don't remember a whole lot. This idea that the Taliban, if Donald Trump is going to be banned for literally breaking TOS, but the Taliban is on there and theoretically they haven't broken TOS, this person is like, yo, well, have they broken TOS? And this old dude is like, well, it doesn't matter. Then you're advocating to ban people from the platform based on their political ideology or their beliefs, which seems to be not what you're in favor of. What? Okay.
That's why they banned Trump, because Trump violated community guidelines.
Okay, I'm certain that this kid has no idea who the Taliban are. He's currently 19, so he was barely even alive the last time they were relevant to American culture.
Bro, and you're like fucking 12, man. I'm doing some voice shaming here, okay? If we're gonna consistently bring up the age of a person, which is a complete ad hominem attack, by the way, how about you address the actual argument? I'm gonna talk shit on this man's voice. Like, what? Why do you talk like this? Maybe you should do some vocal masculinization practice. You should do some fucking voice training, homie. Okay, he doesn't sound 12, 15. He's going through puberty, okay? Like, come on.
Honestly, it sounds like these kids just don't know very much about what they're talking about.
No, they literally know more than you. The Taliban, as far as we're aware, hasn't broken TOS. Donald Trump did break TOS, which was why he was banned. Donald Trump was not banned until January 6th happened. If you look at Twitter's TOS, he has broken the rules of Twitter that he signed up for, Donald Trump, way before January 6th. The only reason they banned him after January 6th is because it was such an optics disaster that they understood that keeping him on the platform would have hurt their bottom line and made them lose money. They don't care about the fact that January 6th happened. They don't care about Donald Trump breaking the rules ever because he drives a lot of engagement to their website because he's a prolific poster. It's one good thing that he's good at is posting on Twitter, not much else. They didn't care about it until January 6th happened. So like, this guy is literally advocating that the Taliban should be banned from the platform on the basis of their beliefs, not what they've done on the platform, but what they believe that they have not put on the platform in the way that breaks TOS, which is literally more authoritarian and anti-free speech than anything the liberal teens that have been quoted in this Jubilee video have said yet.
The kid who said that Twitter enforces its rules fairly made a similarly ignorant statement about BLM.
With the advent of the Black Lives Matter movement this past year.
Okay.
The advent of BLM was in 2020? BLM.
So this is a semantic argument. BLM has been around for a long time. However, you'd have to be a fucking moron to not understand that they had an uptick in relevancy when it came to the BLM protests as a result of George Floyd's killing.
Started in 2013. That movement is over
How are you losing an argument to a teenager that you're not even talking to, who's making arguments in a video that you're able to pause and play at will? What the fuck?
Really, how are you supposed to develop good ideas when you don't know basic information like that or the history of the people you're talking about?
I don't care.
That's
a semantics argument.
I'm not even sure if these kids know who ISIS is, which is also a radical terrorist group that Twitter and Facebook have allowed on their platform in the past.
Do they break the TOS? No? Well, then you're trying to ban them on the basis of their beliefs. If they're posting those beliefs without breaking TOS, then I feel like that's a thing that you should be okay with because you want right-wingers and conservatives to be able to post what they believe, even if they break TOS. ISIS was and Twitter banned them? Well, there you go.
The Taliban stones people because they're gay.
If they posted videos of stoning gay people, I agree, they should be removed, and that 100%. Is fundamentally
This
wrong.
is a child!
And
they're smarter than this fucking octogenarian.
Enough to not do that.
Okay? Well, then you're literally calling Donald Trump a fucking moron. Bruh, this man hates America. I'm telling you, brother, man, you cannot be telling me that the goddamn Taliban is smarter than my God, Emperor Donald Trump. I cannot believe it. I will not take it. That's a rhino. That's not a real Republican, not a real red-blooded American. I'm telling you.
Well,
then
okay.
why wasn't Trump
then
smart
the
enough to
president
not do
wasn't
that?
smart enough to not do that, I guess.
Okay, so these kids definitely don't know who the Taliban
These kids definitely don't know who the Taliban is. These kids don't know anything about what they're talking about.
You're losing an argument against pre-recorded teenagers where you can clip their shit out of context and pause and play at will.
Though I think the more disturbing thing here is that media corporations are able to use the ignorance of kids like this to get them to be dismissive of a group of people who have done some really horrible, violent acts.
What? You're meaning to tell me that people who are doing horrible, violent acts off of their platform and have horrible beliefs off of their platform should not be allowed on the platform, even if they haven't broken the TOS and posted about those beliefs on the platform? It's almost like you want to cancel people over beliefs, thought crimes even. Now, of course, these are real crimes that they have committed as well, the Taliban, ISIS, whatever. Obviously, I don't agree with the stoning of gay people, but if they're not doing it on the platform, then in a principled stance on the basis of Twitter's TOS and its moderation, banning them would not fit. It wouldn't work into the TOS.
but hate Trump, who was mostly just rude. The propaganda
Mostly just rude. He literally incited an attempted insurrection on the Capitol. Now listen, I'm not one of those people that are gonna catastrophize and be like, oh my god, January 6th, it was the next 9/11. But like, the idea that the sitting president could incite that, and by the way, for substantiation, they were literally saying in the open on Facebook, funnily enough, on Parler, on public social media platforms, that was the stated goal. They wanted to halt the ratification of Joe Biden, the president-elect, as the next president, and keep President Donald Trump in place, which is literally a attempted coup. That's what they wanted to do. That was their stated goal, was to disrupt Joe Biden being the president by the Senate and House of Representatives ratifying it. That's what that was. If he's going to create the conditions for that to happen, and also break TOS a myriad of other times through unsubstantiated conspiracy, which is not allowed in the TOS, I feel like Twitter were within their rights to ban a person in violation of their TOS. To minimize it as just being
With all due
rude.
respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
Exactly. It's a bunch of malarkey. Absolutely.
so bad that in their mind, mean tweets are worse than actual violence.
I'm an American and I have to vote between this person, this person. I need equal access to both of them to decide what's right. I can't expect everybody to love me and think the way I think. All y'all think different. I mean, that's totally dope. But the fact that you want somebody removed because they think differently, that could be you one day.
Yeah, so they think differently is, for them, for some reason, a synonym for breaking TOS. Simply thinking differently is not what's happening in these cases. Leftists are banned for breaking TOS when it comes to, like, Margaret Thatcher jokes and shit like that. Like, come on, man.
Could it be you? It will be you.
It already is. It already is. What do you mean it will be you? What are you talking about? Wait. How can you simultaneously say, no leftists are being canceled by big tech, quote unquote, and that's your problem with it, but then you're also is a cautionary tale being like, oh, but it will be you one day. Not only could it be you, it will be you. What do you, I thought big tech was biased for the left. Is it biased for the left or not? This man's wires are crossed.
Process of the liberal kids is something that becomes apparent when you study a second language, especially if that language is very different from your native one. Everything you communicate is dependent on things that you've experienced. For example, if I say the word fire, you probably visualize some kind of fire in your head.
No, I think of this video, actually, and my reaction to it. But I mean, to each their own.
Maybe it's a campfire, or maybe it's a gas fire on a stove. The kind of fire you visualize is dependent on what you've seen, and that has an effect on how you perceive the word. Here's where things get tricky. Fire can do a ton of different things. What if you had one person whose only experience with fire is it being used to cook things? Then you had that person talk to another...
then you have a very sheltered person. I think most people understand when they get to the point where they could even cook things with fire to begin with, that it could also not be used to cook things. Like, fire safety is kind of a thing that people have to learn when using fires to cook to begin with. But anyway...
Other person whose only experience with fire was as like a propellant for a rocket or a jet.
Elon Chungus.
The first guy may ferociously argue that fire can only be used to cook things and for nothing else, while the second guy might say that fire can only be used to make objects move. The solution to their argument may be obvious, but this basic concept becomes a real problem when you start having more abstract, high-level conversations like with
Bruh. How can you say that more abstract, high-level conversations like with politics, when literally the high-level ideas that the right-wing are currently focusing on are fallacious claims of so-called grooming of children, which is contradictory to the actual definition of the word, isn't actually happening? I don't know. Maybe I'm too hopeful for humanity, but I feel like I could see that most people would find that those right-wingers are kind of insane, and this is not high-level conversation being had. But anyway, it's not the point.
We can easily resolve the argument about fire by having the first guy show how fire can be used to cook, and by having the second guy show fire as a propellant.
Except this is a really bad analogy, mostly because I don't know what preconditions within this hypothetical have been put into place where the first person only understands fire to be used to cook. Like, if you literally only use fire to cook, simply by playing with the fire or leaving it unattended, you could eventually learn without the other person's input that fire can do more than just cook things. In fact, even if you're literally just relegating the use of fire to cooking, if you leave something on the fire for too long, it will get destroyed because it'll get burnt and then crumble into ash. Like, this idea that people can only learn that bad things are bad if they're exposed to other people's ideas that think that those bad things are actually good is like an infant's idea of like political analysis. It's a bad analogy. It's just funny to make fun of.
This adds an experience to each person's memory, and now they can both see fire as a propellant and as a thing that's used to cook. But the problem I see all the time in political conversation is that no one attempts to do things like this. For example,
like what?
My news source is more reliable than the other side's.
Of course,
When I
obviously,
look at
everybody's going to agree with this.
Conservative news, I see a lot of conspiracies that I don't necessarily agree with. And so if everything comes from opinion and just people developing their own ideas, it just doesn't seem reliable to me.
Which is true, by the way. So, like, if we talk about, for instance, the current culture war around trans people, the right wing can provide no data, no studies, nothing when it comes to substantiating their accusations of all LGBTQI plus people and their allies being groomers. They cannot do this. It is completely feels-based argumentation. However, the left wing, when it comes to advocating for these things being taught, have a lot of studies and evidence to back up the claim that rates of child abuse go down when kids receive standard sex education in the clinical setting of a classroom. We actually have studies to substantiate this claim. This is what the person in the video is talking about. How she sees all of this conspiracy from the right wing, and you see on the left, hopefully, information backed up by studies and data like I've just provided.
Do you maybe have any examples of conservative media talking about false conspiracies?
Alex Jones, who you just complained about being banned off of Twitter for breaking TOS.
Because otherwise, if I'm a conservative, that point means absolutely nothing to me.
Well, yeah, it means nothing to you because you agree with the delusion. You agree with the warped version of reality that you've built for yourself. Like, just because you're delusional and don't have any studies or data to back up your fucking talking points doesn't mean that the left is wrong.
This girl, Hannah, might actually be correct about conservative media being inaccurate or not trustworthy, but because I haven't experienced what she's experienced, her argument remains unconvincing.
Yeah, so because you buy into the delusion doesn't mean that she's wrong. That's your problem, man.
It's also intellectually dishonest because she made a statement that I can't fact check or criticize. This is kind of the same
What
thing
do you mean?
Indian...
You literally brought up a bunch of people. Alex Jones, Stefan Molyneux. Both of these people, respectively, spread conspiracy theory. Alex Jones, the prominent one, that Sandy Hook was a so-called hoax and that the people there were crisis actors. He's literally, through the judicial system, been found to be liable for damages for those claims and is now filing for bankruptcy. Stefan Molyneux literally pushes race realism, which is also a conspiracy with no substantive evidence. I've given you two of the people that you brought up.
Kid Ritwick did with Twitter. He says that Twitter cancels people on the left at the same rate as on the right.
When did he say at the same rate? Did he say at the same rate? Regardless, at similar rates. There you go. Better semantics for you because you can only argue semantics because you don't have any actual fucking points.
Provides no examples of people on the left being canceled or, more importantly, deplatformed.
I've already talked about this.
Deplatforming is what people actually care about. But
is it really? Because the right wing is very excited to call cancellation literally anything, not just deplatforming. They said Dave Chappelle was canceled for his transphobic remarks in that special, when literally he got a bag off of that special and his career is doing fine. But the right wing was so excited to call that cancel culture. Like, they will call anything cancel culture.
Where I have a problem with, the trans or these different things is
the trans.
They're getting kids at like 10, 12 years old and they're pushing them down that path.
But pushing them down that path, what do you mean? They're literally explaining to them basic biology and basic sociology. That's it in the clinical setting of a classroom. This catastrophizing from the right wing and the sexualization of kids by the right wing is so insane to see. It's really sad and weird.
Who's indoctrinating these kids into becoming LGBTQ and etc.?
There's a lot of groups out there.
Like?
I've just heard that there's groups out there. You don't think there's groups out there that do that?
No.
Do you see how
Bro, how can you talk shit? Let me listen. Maybe he won't go down this path. Let me listen.
Conservative parent Sean failed to convince the liberal teen Parker of his point because he could not provide evidence of his claim.
Okay.
Parker has no experience with Sean's claim, and therefore he won't believe it.
No, I'm pretty sure he does have experience with Sean's claim and knows that what Sean is saying is false because he has experience with it. It's kind of how that works, right? So your entire argument is, how can somebody know that something is wrong if they can't see the opinions of the people that don't think that thing is wrong? We can see the opinions of the people that think it's wrong. We can also see the actual evidence of the fact that this is what Sean is claiming is not happening. And as such, we can come to the conclusion that Sean is full of shit. Like, this was a very effective line of argumentation from Parker.
Parker has no experience with Sean's claim, and therefore he won't believe it. The way you give people experiences and create effective arguments is through actual exposure to the thing you're talking about.
So you think that Parker doesn't believe in Sean's claims, which he was not able to substantiate? Conservatives can literally never substantiate their claims. You think the only way he's going to be able to come to that conclusion is if he learns more about it? What, like gets told lies? Like what do you want him to do? It seems like Parker actually knows more than Sean on the topic, and that's why he knows Sean is wrong.
Maybe Sean could show Parker an article or a TV special or a Twitter post that...
What? We're citing things. Let's go. CA mom, California mom takes legal action against teachers who allegedly persuaded 11-year-old daughter she was a boy. What is this? This is a Daily Wire article. Quoting a Daily Wire article like it's actual facts of the matter is like citing the Taliban when it comes to claims of progressivism. Like, what are you talking about? This is a rag. This is a dog shit news source. Let's look at it. So this is the Daily Wire. So it's going to have a far-right slant, as we know. California mother whose 6th grade daughter was allegedly recruited by teachers encouraged to change her name to a boy's name while being told not to tell her mother, taking legal action against the school district. When is this, by the way? January 24, 2022. Jessica Cohen final legal claim against Spreckles. What the fuck is that? Union School District claiming Buena Vista middle school teachers Lori Caldiera and Kelly Baraki, quote-unquote, planted the seed to convince Conan's daughter to believe she was bisexual, then urged the girl to believe she was a transgender boy. Center for American Liberty, which is representing Jessica Conan, stated, quote, teachers encouraged Jessica Conan's daughter to change her name to a boy's name as an expression of her new identity and specifically instructed her not to tell her mother about her new identity because her mother couldn't be, quote unquote, trusted. And they gave her articles and required her to read them on how to hide her transgenderism from her mother. Still without Jessica's knowledge, teachers and administrators created a, quote unquote, gender support plan instructing faculty to refer to her daughter by a new name, male pronouns, and to let her use the unisex teacher's restroom. So, is there any substantiation for this claim? At all? I wonder. At this point, it just seems to be hearsay. Like Jessica Conan learned of this and then is now, this is what she's claiming. So I don't know all of the facts of the story, but what my guess is, as is often the case, is that the child understands that their mother is not very kind when it comes to gay or trans issues, because often parents will be very vocal about this in the privacy of their own homes, just openly talk about their bigotry. Children can pick up on this. And then when this child is in school learning basic biological and sociological concepts in the clinical setting of a classroom, she then learns that, oh, the things that I feel about myself actually have meaning. The kid probably told the teachers that their mom was an asshole. So the teachers are like, okay, well, we accept you. We're going to validate your identity, which literally hurts nobody. Literally call you different pronouns and call you by whatever name you want. And also you can use the unisex teacher's restroom, which I imagine is a single-use restroom. Jessica Conan, who said that the 2 teachers gave information to her daughter on how to bind arrests to keep them from developing, told Fox News' Laura Ingraham, you wouldn't expect a teacher to be predatorial toward a child. They're supposed to be trusted. Their task is discussing. This is a baseless accusation of predation, by the way. There's still been no harm cited. This is just imagined wrongdoing on a basis of a misunderstanding of biology, sociology, and broader advocacy for the equality of fucking LGBT people. Cringe. What else we got?
Article or a TV special.
The Blues Clues Pride Parade sing-along featuring Nina West. What is wrong with this to you? How is this so-called indoctrination? It's literally just saying that it's okay that gay people exist, that even gender non-conforming people exist. Like if you're a boy but you want to wear dresses, that's okay because it doesn't hurt anybody. What is wrong with this? Like you're talking about things that Sean could have cited to convince Parker of his position, and you're citing a fucking Blues Clues short from Nickelodeon. This is your citation. Works cited. Nickelodeon. What the fuck?
Or a Twitter post that...
Twitter post from Cartoon Network. Here's to not only normalizing gender pronouns, but respecting them too. Whether you use he, she, and them, or something else, we acknowledge and love you. What's the problem with this? You use pronouns every day, my man. If you identify as a man, or in your worldview, you are a man. Though I've not seen any substantive evidence for that either. You're using he, him pronouns, usually. In fact, I'd imagine that you would get mad if people called you she, her, right? So this is what Sean, in the Jubilee video, if shown to Parker, would completely change Parker's mind. No, I don't think so. Because I think Parker knows more than Sean about the issue, like I've said before, and he would continue to have the same take because he knows more.
You can also create experiences that people can attach to by telling stories, playing games, using thought experiments, using metaphors.
What? I'm sorry. That's literally this. If you actually read the fucking Cartoon Network comic, which is attempting to teach literal children about basic concepts like gendered pronouns, if you actually read it, this is literally creating an experience that people can attach to and learn more about by telling a story. But because this story is something that you happen to disagree with, which you have no reason to disagree with because it's a very simple concept, you don't think it's relevant. You think it's indoctrination. Oh, God.
You can't just say your ideas, you have to show people why you believe them. But most importantly, the reason why I don't like adults expressing their political ideology to kids under the age of 18, particularly young kids like 10-year-olds, is because they just don't know enough about the world or about history to defend themselves against terrible ideas.
What are the terrible ideas again? Basic biology and sociology, which you obviously don't understand yourself and could probably have benefited from learning when you were younger.
They simply don't have enough life experiences or critical thinking skills to criticize you, so they'll just believe whatever you say without question.
I wonder, has the right wing ever taken advantage of children? There's no way. There's no way. The right wing's pushing for homeschooling, which has no oversight, and they can be taught literally anything. The right's pushing at private schools, which also have no oversight, and they could be taught literally anything, and most of those are theocratic in nature. No way, dude. The Catholic Church and its rampant abuse of children, they've taken advantage of them in that way. The fact that heterosexual men are the most likely to abuse kids. No way. No, it has to be when kids are taught basic biology and sociology.
Which leads them to saying things like this when they become adults.
This idea that because men are being raised by women that they're weaker is, in my opinion, completely false. In today's society,
yeah, like, I don't know what the substantive evidence to the opposite of that claim is. Like that women are raising children and now the children are becoming weaker. Where is the evidence of this?
that is why women are fighting for equality, because this idea that because they only have a mom, they're weaker, that's, in my opinion, completely false.
No, it's not false, and if you think your statement is true, then you know nothing about childcare or children.
Source?
People who are raised by one parent are weaker than people who are raised by a mother and a father. From the perspective...
What do you mean weaker? How do you define weaker? One of the main reasons why kids who are raised by single parents end up doing worse in life is usually as it pertains to their socioeconomic status. If in the current context of the world, where you need to work multiple jobs to make ends meet a lot of the time, where the idea of a stay-at-home mom is less and less of reality to more and more people, or the stay-at-home parent, if we want to get woke about it. If your parents come from a worse socioeconomic status, the children are more likely to also inherit those problems, and when they get older, they stay in a bad socioeconomic status. The largest determining factor of how well you'll do in your life is largely to do with your zip code, where you're born, who you're born to as well. Single-parent households tend to make less money, tend to be less available to their kids as well when it comes to teaching them and raising them. The fix for this is not forcing like every mother to be strapped to like an abusive father. Instead of forcing these things to be the case, how about we make it so that society provides a social safety net that allows for single parents to achieve a better socioeconomic status that gives them the opportunity for upward mobility, and then hopefully make it so that the children don't suffer. Might be a better idea.
Of psychological development, because that's what they're talking about here. Every person is to some extent a combination of masculine and feminine traits, and those traits need to be modeled and taught to children by the experts. Women don't know masculinity
Who's the experts?
As well as men do, and men don't know femininity as well as women do. Therefore, you will always get a less qualified teacher if you expect one sex to teach the traits of the opposite sex.
What the fuck are we talking about?
This girl doesn't really speak like she has any experience with mental health. She's just repeating...
I think this person has a lot of experience with mental health.
talking points that sound good in her head because she hasn't seen the damage that broken families do.
And I would say in the environment that I...
If this is a liberal teen, she was more likely to support the prescriptions that I have brought up that make it so that single-family households don't provide worse outcomes for their children, or at least mitigate the negatives.
And the teen pregnancies come from girls without fathers. The homicides come from people without fathers. Every girl that I know, if they grow up with a daddy, they get married before they have a kid.
Why do they not have fathers?
If you want me to be real, because a lot of women make bad choices on the men they procreate with. If you make a bad choice...
How is that the women's fault? Well, I'm sorry. So he says that a lot of the women make bad choices with the men that they procreate with. That seems to imply that that bad choice is that that man is not reliable and therefore leaves the woman after they've procreated, causing her to be a single mother. But the actual problem there is the fact that the father is left. That's the actual incident that has caused this person to be a single parent. What? How is that the woman's fault?
Every bad thing that I did in my life, it was when my daddy was in jail. When my dad was out and I had my dad's reassurance, I was a better person.
Absolutely true.
Yep.
Johnny's right, and you can see he has a connection to it because he's experienced
Oh
it
my
firsthand.
God.
There is no greater predictor.
This idea that lived experience is necessary to understand any concept is so fucking deranged.
There is no greater predictor of criminality than being born in a single mother household.
Okay, so then, why is the single mother a single mother? Where is the father? Did the mom kill him? Or did the man leave of his own volition because he wasn't ready to be a father? Now, I'm not saying that both of these people couldn't have made bad choices. Maybe they didn't use protection and they should have. But like, where's the dad?
In my personal experience covering the tens of thousands of people I've listened to talk about their lives, the vast majority of teen pregnancies come from single mother households and broken families.
Okay, so why are these families and households broken? It might be connected, at least in the case of the often cited fatherlessness when it comes to the black community, because black people are over-policed in this country and are disproportionately sentenced to crimes and sent to prison for longer sentences, also disproportionately, than are white people. But in a general sense, removing race from the situation, why are these parents not together?
That's why these parenting situations should not be encouraged. Now, that doesn't mean
also, who's encouraging single parenting at all? We've not seen a single point where anybody's encouraged people being single parents.
Attack these people, but what it does mean is that single motherhood should be seen as an unfortunate event rather than something to strive towards like mainstream media and feminism make it out to be.
And it's unfortunate, too, because this person's ideology, whether he knows it or not, continues and exacerbates the conditions that make it so that single motherhood is a thing, that single parenthood is a thing and a problem. Because this person is very obviously not on the left, the prescriptions that he has makes it harder for people in general to live good lives. It makes it more expensive to live. It penalizes people for things that aren't actually crimes and causes people hardship. There are so many different things that this person seems to subscribe to that make it so that single motherhood, for one, happens more often, and for two, is harder and produces worse results for the kids. So like, obviously this person doesn't understand what feminism is. They have a bastardized version of it because they have a delusion about it. They don't actually understand what it is. Literally, like, even like a layman's understanding of feminism, which is like trying to get equality for women, which is not what it is, by the way. It's trying to get equality for all genders, but even specifically for women, necessarily would involve better socioeconomic conditions for women, and then would literally make it so that single mothers would have a better shot under the feminist worldview and policy than they would under this dude's ideology. So like, this man doesn't care about the whole idea that this is an unfortunate, problem, a symptom of, society. He's okay with that. He likes it when women suffer because he's got mommy issues, I'm guessing, and just hates women. Or maybe like he's had a lot of bad experiences with women in the past because like they don't seem to find him that interesting. Probably because he hates women.
Speaking of bad takes from people who don't know anything,
we've been watching it for 11 minutes and 45 seconds.
Another incredibly dangerous take that woke people promote and college kids repeat all the time.
I'm so excited.
I had one daughter that had to move across the country to get rid of a toxic relationship with somebody that was harming them.
Why does the woman have to move across the country because the man is being toxic? Why can't the man be taught, don't be toxic?
Oh, I agree.
Women nowadays have to deal with those kinds of relationships.
Yeah, except the...
What's wrong with that? Wait, how is this a dangerous idea? That men shouldn't be toxic to women? What? And obviously this involves, because feminism is the equality of all genders, women not being toxic to men as well. Where's the issue?
Women nowadays have to deal with those kinds of relationships.
Yeah, except the part of the conversation that the mainstream left and feminists ignore is that people will actively seek out these kinds of abusive relationships if you don't teach them about psychology.
What? It was just, we do a little bit of victim blaming.
This is the most dangerous political take that feminists have promoted over the last decade, and quite honestly, it's borderline misogynistic because it puts more women in danger. Criminals are going to be criminals. Abusers are going to abuse. I know it's not fair, but you aren't going to stop them by saying, hey, don't do that. They already know it's wrong and they don't care.
What do you mean? So the feminist critique, and the thing that this guy would be against, is that to teach kids when they're younger concepts around sociology as it pertains to how women are oppressed, even like you can extend it to how black people are oppressed and yada yada yada. This creates conditions where these people grow up to be more empathetic and less likely to do these bad things. This is, I think, the idea in part, at least. It's not simply like, oh, you're in the middle of seeing somebody about to stab a person to death, and you're like, yo, dude, stab stabbing people to death. Not cool, bro. And they're like, oh shit, my bad. Oh Jesus. All right, I didn't realize until you told me. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about teaching people things throughout their lives, providing them the experiences that this guy is literally saying that they lack. And if they had those experiences, they might be more empathetic, understand them, and come to a better conclusion that actually misogyny is wrong. Like, how do you expect kids to not grow up to be abusive to women in this context if you don't provide them the experience, which you could tell through story, to know that it's bad? You're literally talking about how the people on the left here don't have the experience necessary to understand why the things they believe are what they believe, and yet you're also against people being taught these experiences exist. It's almost like you don't actually care about anything you're talking about.
Hannah also sort of contradicts herself here because she previously encouraged single motherhood, which creates the abusers she wants to...
Who the fuck? When did she encourage single motherhood? Source? When did this happen? So it's this. Okay.
Idea that because men are being raised by women that they're weaker is, in my opinion, completely false. In today's society, that is why women are fighting for equality, because this idea that because they only have a mom, they're weaker, that's, in my opinion, completely false.
Yeah. So think before you sleep. Can't comprehend the things that this teenager is saying. So let me help you. This is not an encouragement of single motherhood. This is simply saying that the fact that it's a woman raising the child isn't what's creating those negative consequences. It's the socioeconomic class of being a single parent. It's not the gender identity of the person who's the parent. If we made it so that single parent households, through a strengthened social safety net, so that single parents had a better financial socioeconomic situation, that would provide the conditions for the opportunity for these kids to have better lives. The parents could spend more time at home away from work. The parents could then spend more time with their kids. The parents could then be parents to their kids instead of at work all the time. Bada bing, bada boom.
Do you see why knowing stuff matters? Instead of punishing these people legally, if you want to keep yourself safe, then you need to adopt a certain set of behaviors. Otherwise, what happens with abuse victims is they keep getting involved with the same type of people, and they keep...
By the way, for punishing these abusers through the legal system, this person is also not a big fan of Me Too. Which is literally a movement designed and formed around the idea that powerful men and powerful abusers in general who haven't been brought to justice should be outed as being the abusers they are and then brought to justice. But this guy doesn't like the Me Too movement. I wonder why. It's very curious.
Being re-victimized until their lives are completely destroyed. I know that to all the college kids. Why can't you teach men to not be...
Oh my God! I'm sorry. How can you do a whiny kid voice? Like a whiny teenager voice. And it's literally the same as your actual voice. This was not the play. I'm sorry. Oh no, dude.
But the problem is that the feminist line of thinking on this issue does not work, and it puts more people in danger.
This man doesn't even understand the feminist point of view on the issue. Oh God. I'm relatively certain that this man thinks that feminism equals women are better than men. I'm pretty sure that's the extent of it. I'm willing to bet. The goals of feminism is not the equality of all gender identities. It is a matriarchal society where women are on top instead of men. Listen, that's why I use any and all pronouns. It gives me plausible deniability. I might be a woman. Do some vocal training, get my voice to sound more like this guy's, and I could pass as a woman. And then I'll be fine under that new hegemonic, orientation of the society. Let's go.
I don't park my car in a dangerous neighborhood with a $2,000 laptop in the front seat and all the doors unlocked if I don't want to get robbed. And you shouldn't walk down dark alleys intoxicated at 3 a.m. if you don't want bad things to happen to you.
What are you talking about? But did you see what she was wearing? That's the argument. What are you doing? How can you claim to actually want to make these things better for people and then make these, but look at what she was wearing arguments? Yes, because all women who are victims of abuse were all walking down alleys at 3 a.m. intoxicated. Yeah, absolutely, man. By the way, facts and logic, by the way. Citations, by the way. Jesus Christ. He just hates women. That's it.
The major themes of my channel is learn how to keep abusive people out of your life.
No, one of the major themes of your channel is how to be a fucking reprehensible moron. We gotta watch more of these videos.
So I'll say it again. I don't like it when kids are taught politics before they've learned enough about the world, because there are a ton of things out there that sound great on paper, but if you just have a little life experience, you'll realize they are bad ideas.
What you were mentioning with the fact that we have the opportunity to write with, like, women inequality, like, why is that not happening? It's because the way our democracy is set up, our Congress is literally in a gridlock right now, as it has been for so many past sessions of Congress.
First off, America is not a democracy. It's
it's a democratic republic. Shut the fuck up, you bitch ass. Actually, it's a democratic republic. Shut the fuck up.
Mainstream media calls America a democracy to trick you into believing ideas that don't work. Like this idea that for some reason a lot of people have absorbed. The left says this far more than the right does, but I'm not really sure how this is a partisan issue. Both parties should want gridlock. It might seem like a partisan issue because places like colleges have this really nasty habit of not telling people why the American government works the way it does. Actually, school in general has a really bad habit of not telling you why things are the way they are, or the purpose of the things you're learning. Because if people like Ritwick here understood why gridlock—
So that is true. I will agree with him on this point in regards to this very simple fact. A lot of capitalist dogma is taught to kids in school. The idea that this is the best economic system that we could possibly have is taught to kids in school, okay? They are often not taught alternatives until you get to, like, college. And at that point, you gotta, like, take almost elective classes. I'm in agreement with him here, okay? Anti-capitalist ideas should be taught to people in middle school. It's my take.
Something I say on this channel a lot is that most new ideas suck. Gridlock is necessary because we only want the best ideas to get through. The left represents the group of people who want to change things because sometimes things need to change. The right represents the group of people who want to keep things the same because sometimes things should be kept the same.
What the fuck are you talking about? Conservatives do want to keep things the same. To be a conservative, back in the antebellum South, was to want to keep slavery as the thing that was done. It's almost like there was a whole war, a civil one, some would say, between the same country within itself. One half of it, the conservatives wanting to keep slavery, and the other half, the fucking lefties who didn't want slavery. Like, it was just a debate. I mean, what do you want? It's just different ideas.
They're supposed to fight it out, and we have standards like requiring a supermajority vote for a constitutional amendment or things like a presidential veto because it forces these two sides to talk to each other. Our system—
But it doesn't. This is not what's been evidenced by the last several decades of Republican obstructionism. The entire Obama administration, and now the Joe Biden administration, is literally being obstructed by Republicans because they don't like the fact that the two sides can talk to each other and that one side can potentially win and pass legislation or seat Supreme Court justices.
Was designed so that it's very difficult for one person or one small entity to have all the power. Whereas
one person or small entity. Small entity? Small entity. Capital owners. The people that have all the money. People like Elon Musk, like Jeff Bezos, like the Walmart family. The oligarchs of this country that help shape the policy that we get. Literally, the system we have and the economic organization we have has made it so that a small group of people control more wealth than the bottom 99% of it, and policies are passed to keep that the status quo. Also, conservatives like that. The Republican Party and conservatives in general are very excited when a single small entity has all of the power. They pass policy that makes that the case. It is factually correct that this is the case.
Just a simple majority for everything with no other defenses or gridlock, you're going to find that one side always gets its way. And I know that both the left and the right hate that. Also,
we're an enlightened centrist. We're an enlightened centrist when spouting fucking a right-wing pablum this entire video. I don't know, like, I understand the tactic of pretending to be like, ooh, well, both sides are bad, actually. But it's hard for you to do that when you've been like a virulent right-winger this entire video with all of the things that you've said.
Using the standards for new law creation to prevent gridlock in America sounds a lot like a push towards a dictatorship. But what I notice is that this anti-gridlock—
dictatorship of what exactly? Of the majority, where the party that gets the most votes gets to win. Is that the thing you're claiming is a problem?
Belief doesn't at all fall in line with the values of the liberal teens, which is why this is so nonsensical.
You're hypocritical.
They've just been tricked into thinking it was a good idea before they knew enough about the world to realize that it was nonsense.
Jesus Christ. It's every time with these people. Every time. This guy is literally a victim of indoctrination. This man's ideology, I guarantee, maps onto that of his parents 1-to-1. In fact, he's probably radicalized past them. Like, he's surpassed their power level. We're watching the video produced by a victim of indoctrination, and you're gonna claim that the other side are the actual victims of indoctrination.
I know they don't want their side to be silenced, and I know they want to be heard because they said it.
A lot of my family voted for Trump in the past election, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't like to say this, but it made me view their morals a little bit differently, and they're willing to adapt and change was so different, and I was just like shocked because I wanted to understand their side and really talk about it, and I was met with, you're wrong,
Yup.
and we don't want to talk about it, and
Yup.
that kind of really damaged just kind of the way I looked at them.
So your family didn't agree with you, and they just kind of shut you up instead of taking the time to talk, listen, and try to find common ground. How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't give a fuck about finding common ground. If I have the data and studies to back up my claims and the policies that I support have been shown to be beneficial to people, I don't give a shit about common ground. I don't give a shit about conceding anything to the people that disagree with me. If I have the correct position and the data backs it up, fuck you. I'm correct.
Because when you say that you think that cancel culture is good, this behavior that you didn't like from your family is the behavior you're encouraging.
Yeah, but they didn't come out in favor of cancel culture. They came out saying that Twitter has a TOS, and if you break it, you get in trouble because that's what you agree to when you sign up. But because we want to say that that's cancel culture, because cancel culture is whatever I don't like, then obviously now we're going to have this take and we're going to pretend that people have said things they haven't.
Cancel culture is all about shutting people up who have different opinions than you. So if you don't like it when people shut you out and don't listen to what you have to say, then don't do that to other people. Treat others as you would like to be treated.
My God.
My name is Parker, I'm 19, and I'm a liberal. My sisters and I have...
This guy's actually not a liberal, by the way. He's actually a leftist, as far as I'm aware. He was interviewed by Vaush, and he said that he only said he was a liberal because, one, that was like the prompt, was like liberal teens versus conservative adults. And for two, obviously saying you're a liberal makes your views a little bit more palatable to certain people.
Become a lot more liberal, a lot more left-leaning over time while my parents have stayed a bit conservative. Before, when I was a conservative, I kind of just went off a lot of the indoctrination and propaganda.
Yet another valuable lesson in the book of why you don't talk to kids about politics. You are either going to get a kid who follows everything you say and becomes a mindless NPC who is of no...
Like the person we're watching right now who's created this 22-minute video when he's been correct about almost nothing.
...no value to society and actually might hurt society. Or your kids will turn on you and join your political enemy just to spite you.
What?
So keep your politics away from kids. It's not fair to them because not only do you have a massive power imbalance in terms of how much more you know than, say, a 10-year-old, but also because you're an authority figure who has the power to punish them, not for being wrong, but for disagreeing with you. And many parents use that strategy to bully their kids into agreeing with their political ideology.
Yeah, conservative parents do this more than liberal parents, by the way.
Not to say that those parents don't have their reasons. They are likely afraid that their kids will be harmed by absorbing the wrong ideas. However, here's what actually matters, and this is why I don't care about which side of the political spectrum people end up on. As long as you are committed to honesty.
He says, I don't care what side of the political spectrum people end up on, and puts out this fucking filth, dude. Everything you put out is right-wing propaganda. How can you claim that you don't care what political side of the fence people end up on? And your entire career, I assume, has been built on trying to convince people of your politics. Like, this idea that you're this enlightened centrist that only cares about facts and logic is ludicrous. You have an agenda. Just say it with your chest, man. I have an agenda. I like to look at the data and studies that show that the left-wing policies that I support actually benefit the people that they're trying to support. That's why I push for them. I understand that teaching kids basic biology and sociology makes them less likely to be victims of abuse or more likely to be able to report the abuse that they suffer, and it makes the convictions of those people go up. I understand that the studies suggest this, so I'm going to be in favor of people learning basic biology and sociology. Same for the fucking teaching kids that slavery was bad, you know? It's very simple.
Honesty and open to criticism, you will eventually end up at the right answer, even if you spend years focusing on the wrong one. What parents should be doing is teaching their kids concepts and values that will allow them to figure out what's right on their own. Here's an example of teaching basic concepts.
Oh, God.
If you're a conservative parent, you can make your kids hate income taxes with a simple activity. First of all, never give your kids an allowance. That teaches them to expect consistent money without doing anything in return.
What do you mean? So he says if you're a conservative,
you can make your kids hate income taxes.
You can make your kids hate income taxes. So is this a position he holds, or is he saying that conservatives don't like income taxes, and this is how the conservative parent could do it? Because from what I've seen of this man's politics, and from what I can infer, it seems like this guy's not a big fan of income tax. It's almost like you're pushing an agenda here. It's almost like you don't want to give people the tools to arrive at the so-called right position. You have what you consider to be the right position, and you want people to accept that as the reality we live in. It's almost like you have a political agenda.
First of all, never give your kids an allowance. That teaches them to expect consistent money without doing anything in return. You're basically teaching them to be welfare flunkies with that practice.
What do you mean? So, like, the language you're using, welfare flunkies. Like, people are gaming the welfare system. You could give me, like, 1 or 2 anecdotes about people doing this, but by and large, the people that benefit from welfare programs, they help them to the point that they're supposed to, and if not, they don't help them enough. Like, the welfare should be bigger, better. But welfare flunkies, so, like, this guy has an agenda. The idea that he doesn't is ridiculous.
Instead, money should always be given to children in exchange for some sort of labor. So tell them, if you mow the lawn, I'll give you $10. Let them mow the lawn and give them $10. Then say, if you wash my car, I'll give you $10. Have them wash your car.
So what's funny about this is you're priming them to accept an incredibly low rate of pay for the work that they're doing. You are underpaying your kids if they wash your entire fucking car and you only give them $10. So like, you're letting them get used to the idea that they're gonna do so much work and they're gonna get very little money for it, which is the actual reality for the poor people of this country. You get fucking shafted, you get shit wages, and you do an immense amount of labor. Your labor is exploited. It's like, if you want to teach your kids that their labor will be exploited when they grow up, then maybe, yeah, you can do this practice and then explain to them that they're not getting paid enough. But like, I don't know, man.
Give them $10 and genuinely do that for like 6 months to a year. Let them get used to the $10. After that 6 months to a year, let them mow the lawn and physically pay them $10. Make sure you let them hold the $10 in their hands first. That's important. After you hand the money to them, take out taxes. I live in California for the time being, and income taxes here are incredibly high, so I'm going to take out $4 of that $10 because that's close to what I have to pay.
You're literally trying to indoctrinate your kids. How can you have a video based around when woke indoctrinated kids become adults, saying that the left is indoctrinating kids or whatever, and then go on to provide an example of the indoctrination of children, but from conservatives? It has to be satire. It's parody. I can't accept that a human being can produce this video and be this delusional.
State, federal, and self-employment taxes. So your kid started out with $10 and now he has $6.
I've gone on to indoctrinate your kids. You're welcome. You don't want to push a political ideology on your kids. You just want to teach them how taxes are bad. What the fuck are you talking about?
Notice that this whole
is
lesson,
sad, man.
I haven't taken a political stance at all.
What do you mean? What do you mean? How with this whole lesson, where you're trying to teach your kids that taxes are bad, which is a political position, are you gonna say that you haven't taken a political stance? What are you talking about? Oh God, I'm sorry. You can't do this. You can't do this, man. It's not good. This is bad, okay? This is a symptom of bad things in our society, all right? I am calling it out here, okay? This man has a darkened mind. He is in a fallen state. He doesn't know anything about what he's trying to talk about. This is like entitlement, man. This man thinks that because he believes the thing, it's correct. And he doesn't have to substantiate any of it. He doesn't have any facts. He doesn't have any studies. He doesn't have any data. He just thinks that because he believes it, it's correct.
All I've done is shown him what it's like to not pay taxes and what it is like to pay taxes. Now he can make his own decision, and I guarantee you
oh my God.
Second you remove that $4 from his hand, he will try to fight you for it and maybe refuse to ever mow the lawn again. But
and yet, you're the parent, so you can just force them to mow the lawn or else they get grounded. It's almost like they're in an exploitative arrangement where if they end up not getting paid enough at their job and they say, yo, I want to get paid more or I'm not going to do this job, they're going to get fucking punished and probably fired. Now, there's the actual lesson here.
He may be wrong. He might decide that he likes that system. Though if you want to be super realistic, you can take $3 of that $4 you took from him in taxes and buy him something useless that he doesn't want, like a box of crayons, while pretending that you just made the greatest purchase in the world. And then you can stop being mean and teach him the value of charity by showing him how you donate your time and money to the people who need it.
What are we talking about? So, welfare is bad. When we tax people and then use the money gained through taxes in order to fund services that make people's quality of life better, especially if they're in a disadvantaged position, that's bad. But when wealthy people do charity and give the money away that they made by exploiting people for their labor, that's good. I'm not pushing a political ideology, by the way.
Model behavior is how kids pick up good traits like that. That's how you teach kids, and by the way, that's
Do not let this person around your kids. This is a bad play. If you are taking lessons on parenting from this person, you are a lost cause.
You teach adults too. You need to give them some experience to attach to, or they will not listen. You can do the same with minimum wage increases. If I'm a conservative, I don't have to tell you that minimum wage...
Why are you saying if I'm a conservative? You are a conservative. Don't be a pussy. Just tell us what you are. We don't even need you to tell us what you are. Your entire body of work shows us what you are. But you continue to insist through your own cowardice to be like, oh, but if I was a conservative, I'm saying both sides are bad. I'm in the center. I've just come to these conclusions logically by seeing both sides of the argument. Shut the fuck up. You're a conservative. It's not if you're a conservative, you are a conservative. How about you try to use this analogy from a left-wing perspective? It's almost like you can't, because that's not the ideology that you have. That's not the ideology that you want to push.
Increases are a bad idea. I just have to teach you how money works, and you'll come to that conclusion.
This guy, the money understander, by the way. The guy that doesn't understand the social safety net and how taxes work.
We can talk about bartering, the gold standard, supply and demand.
Oh my God.
The properties of a working currency.
The gold standard. Listen, kids these days are not being taught by the goddamn gold standard.
Fiat money, negotiation, and inflation. Once people learn that stuff, they can understand that telling someone to pay their employees $3 more an hour for the same work they did yesterday at the same level of quality doesn't actually make those employees richer because they haven't actually become more valuable.
Oh my God. But I don't have an ideology. What the fuck are we talking about? The fact that they were paid $3 less was already an arbitrary distinction. There was no fucking process that led to them being given that amount of money for the labor that they did. Raising the minimum wage and tying it to the cost of living of an area literally increases the quality of life of people, and all it requires is for CEOs to get paid less money.
When you know the principles of economics, you'll know that everyone just increases their prices when minimum wage increases, which puts you right back where you started.
This has been debunked, by the way.
You have to understand that just like these kids from the Jubilee video, many people have very strong opinions about things they know nothing about.
Like this video.
Especially when it comes to economics. Them knowing nothing makes them very easy to manipulate.
Bro, when did we talk about economics? All of the videos of the Jubilee segment we cited were about bullshit cancel culture, culture war shit, and about like moms and how much you hate women. We've not talked about economics until the end when you were pushing your ideology.
With that in mind, you can stop all the evil in the world simply by getting good at explaining basic concepts to people.
But also, we shouldn't teach kids basic biology and sociology, because that's politics.
And by doing so in a way that acknowledges them as separate human beings with their own ideas, desires, and fears. Be as kind in your explanation as possible. Here's an example of the conservative parent Mike doing that.
Oh my God. Are we going to talk about the liberal side of things? I thought we were centrists.
We want more of agree to disagree. I'm not going to not buy you a present for Christmas because, you decided to vote for somebody that I don't like. Give me a break. Families are special. And we've got too many people, as you've talked about, that don't have them.
Yeah, so what political side of the fence is more likely to kick their kids out of the house when their kids come out to them as being some version of LGBTQIA+? How many people, if you're watching this, do you know who have been excommunicated from family because of their identity, because of who they love? And what is the politics of the people that are doing that? This idea that liberals don't agree that people should be able to have differing opinions and still be a family is insane. It is often the case that the right wing is the one breaking up their families when it comes to political disagreement.
Demeanor you need to have when you're talking to people about things you disagree on. Can you see how he used a metaphor like Christmas to get his opponents to understand what he was talking about? That's what made his argument effective. But that's enough for this video. If you liked it, hit the like button.
Jesus Christ. This was a 22-minute, 40-second video full of absolute dog shit. And we will watch more of these videos in the future. This is a content goldmine, as it would turn out. This was really bad. Not good. To summarize, this guy's definition of indoctrination is literally when kids are taught basic biology, basic sociology, and are taught that slavery was bad. Simplifying it, all right? That all people should be considered equal. and that there is currently in place a social hierarchy that makes it so that black and brown people are oppressed, which is statistically true. To teach that to kids, that's indoctrination. But instead, if you want to teach your kids that taxes are theft and that increasing the minimum wage so that people are properly compensated for their labor is a bad thing, that's not indoctrination. That's not politics, because it's what think before you sleep agrees with. Essentially, indoctrination is anything I don't like. Cancel culture is anything I don't like. Woke is anything I don't like. And this video is a lot of evidence of that. This man was literally outsmarted and lost a debate to literal teenagers where he could pause and play the video at will. This is a prepared video. Oh God. Like, do not let these people arguments poison your mind. Now, obviously, when it comes to this video, I am dunking on this guy. I'm making fun of him. I'm giving him shit because he's a dumbass. But this is not, this would not be the line of argumentation that I take when trying to convince like friends and family of my point of view. When I do try to talk to my family about my point of view, I don't dunk on them. You shouldn't do that. Thought I'd make that clear. You need to talk to them like normal human beings. But when it comes to dumbasses on the internet who have no shame in putting out garbage content like this, I will absolutely dunk on them to the fullest extent of my ability. In fact, I don't think I went hard enough. Also, sorry I got a little heated. This video is specifically designed to make me mad. It'd be one thing if I was needlessly mad, but I've got, I think, the arguments to back it up. My apologies. It's just, I don't know, like the fact that this man has a 500,000 sub count and his videos regularly get almost equivalent views is sad. Like the fact that this is a thing that is popular to people makes me lose hope in humanity. And I've got a lot of hope. I've got more hope than this person has in humanity, very obviously. The fact that they seem to be doing as well as they are, with the content being as bad as it is, I think it's just indicative of low standard of the viewership. And that makes me, feel bad. I think people should have higher standards in the content that they want.